with its heroes and heroines, the war effort produces new villains. The Slacker is the subject of this 1917 film epic. Not drama, but life. This scene takes place in Birmingham, Alabama. A slacker driven out of town by his neighbors. With the draft strictly policed, the penalties of being a slacker are severe. One who eludes the draft by disappearing for the duration is a wealthy young sportsman, Grover Cleveland Bergdahl. He becomes notorious as the best hated man in America. The best hated man in the world, of course, is the Kaiser, derided in propaganda films like this. He is described in a government pamphlet as that arch-fiend of Prussianism. If hell were turned upside down, says Billy Sunday, you would find "Made in Germany" stamped on the bottom of it. Slogans grow into passions, a hatred of all things German. A Harvard professor finds in Wagner's music the traits of war, lust, and cunning. Shops owned by German Americans are boycotted, sometimes wrecked. Sauerkraut becomes liberty cabbage. In the schools of 14 states, teaching German is banned. And President Wilson worries that the war spirit may become the mob spirit. In December 1917, the climate of wartime America suffers a bitter change. The weather is some of the harshest on record. The war effort, both at home and at the front, seems as shaky as the footing. The situation, says the New York Times, is filled with the material of pessimism. Nine months of American participation in the war. 4 whole divisions shipped overseas. More units leaving every week. And no visible impact on the stalemate on the Western Front. Impatient for news of victories, the public has received only reports of the first American deaths. The spirit of over there is becoming muted. The farewells grow somber. The materiel of the home front, coal and food, is stalled in transit as the nation's railroads, burdened by a long history of mismanagement, further strained by labor shortages and strikes, finally break down. Even on the home front, every day is a battle. War production sputters under a variety of handicaps. Competing for materials and manpower, or any reasonable substitute, industry operates under conflicting plans by a welter of government committees. Washington's patriotic madhouse has become a bureaucratic madhouse. In Washington, the atmosphere is heavy with complaint. The Wilson administration, already under fire from Republicans like Senator Henry Cabot Lodge and ex-President Theodore Roosevelt, is now attacked by a leading Democrat. Senator George Chamberlain charges inefficiency in every bureau and department. And economic czar Bernard Baruch is empowered by Wilson to get war industry out of its doldrums. By government fiat, production gets rolling. Baruch and his War Industries Board, armed with extraordinary powers, reporting directly to the president, keep the economy disciplined with a tough regime of priorities. It is a pattern alien to America. Business by government regulation. Less steel for auto parts, none for corsets, more for guns. Less cloth for blouses, more for airplane fuselages. Even with the speed up, industry will never quite catch up with the war. In a single ceremonious day, 4th of July, 1918, 95 ships are launched. But none will cross the Atlantic by the time of the armistice. British shipping will carry most of the load. Nor will any American-made tank get into action. The American Expeditionary Force will fight with French and British tanks and artillery, while the bugs are being worked out over here. It is late in the war before the arsenal of democracy is really geared up for the business of war. Its problems of manpower and materials settled. One new source of industrial manpower is the Negro, recruited from the South by the thousands, giving up 50 or 75 cents a day jobs for the lure of higher paid war work in the North. The migration, which will have a profound effect on the course of American life, is accompanied by conflict. Race riots in northern communities like Philadelphia, Chicago, and East St. Louis, Illinois, where 37 Americans are killed, white and Negro. A deadly blow to the home front comes from an invisible enemy, influenza. Striking in the early fall of 1918, the flu epidemic becomes a war in itself. Its uniform, the mask required by law in some communities. The death toll, nearly 500,000, is 4 times the number of Americans killed overseas. Another kind of disease is loose in the land. Suspicion, attacking all forms of dissent. Vigilantes, operating in the name of patriotism, pursue their own blacklist of enemies. Draft dodgers and war bond slackers. Pacifists who condemn war. Labor groups that insist on voicing discontent. The foreign-born. Wilson's fears of a brutalized, conformist America loom over the nation.